You're watching PEGRI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
Welcome everybody to the Four Corners, brought to you by the Official Wrestling Museum. We are your hosts. I am Angel, and I'm joined by the Official Wrestling Museum's Hall of Famer,
Lowlife.
And we are here this week talking about what, my man?
So we decided, we had a couple options, and we liked the option of naming 4 people, man, woman, whatever, that you wanted to see more of, that maybe only spent a short time in the business, short time in a certain company, but you were like, man, I really like that person, and I just was into them. I want to see more of them. So, like an example, not on my list. I don't know if he's on your list. I'm going to use him as an example anyway. Like Nails. He was only around for a couple months. Maybe some people wanted to see more of that character.
You know, I think this is a pretty cool show, and I like the fact that they came to us and they're like, okay, we have an idea. And these are like the couple, I think there was like, 4 or 5 different topics. And they kind of gave us the green light to kind of pick what we wanted to do. And this is the first time we actually got to have like say in the sense of picking, which was cool for us to do. And it makes you think, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's interesting. So while we're thinking and while we're talking, scan that QR code to help make a National Pro Wrestling Day, because you guys can make it happen. It's totally free to do. It takes less than 10 seconds to do. So do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So I think when I think of guys that it's like, man, this guy came on and he was awesome, and then he was gone. Going to WCW Blitzkrieg, the cruiserweight. And from what I remember, he came on the scene, and I can't remember the time he was there. It was a couple months. I could be wrong. Could have been a year. But he was on Thunder a lot. And from what I remember, he was a white guy from like California. And from what I remember, he left to do like a computer job. And he wasn't around long. He didn't have a cruiserweight title reign, I don't think. But he was on there having awesome matches. He was something different. He wore a mask, and he was in, and he was out shortly after. But he definitely stood out to the point where when I think of this subject, he's like the first guy I think of. A lot of people still talk about him.
That's a really good pick, you know what I mean? And I think the problem is, too, with cruiserweights, a lot of people get lost in the shuffle, especially with WCW. There was so many.
Yeah.
He really did.
A masked guy.
Yeah.
Because there was so many luchadors at the time.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump ship back over to WWF days.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm gonna go with Damien Demento.
Oh my God! I cannot believe that's one of my picks, and I can't believe, like, of all people, you would say Damien Demento.
Really?
So it's like I got to now fish for another pick, which I easily can. But Damien Demento was one of my picks.
Yeah.
He had this awesome look. He was only around for a few months.
Very short. He ended up, he was in Cop and a Half. He did a couple of movies.
Cop and a Half with Burt Reynolds and the little black kid?
Yep, he was in there. I really...
What else am I going to say? I mean, I'm not being racist or anything. I don't know the kid's name. Burt Reynolds, I know.
I love the look of him. The bald head, just a little hair in the back.
Yeah.
But those shoulder pads, man.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I still try to figure out what that is.
It had to have been, what I kind of thought was kind of like a Viking type of look.
I think it was like animal, but not a real animal, like say a buffalo.
Yeah,
but it wasn't
and then
real.
put together
It was like
and
some
stuff. Right.
demon. But what I loved about him, so the reason why Damien Demento was so fresh on my mind is, again, as I've been mentioning, me and my son are watching Superstars from that era, and he's on there, and he really stands out. His in-ring work is not the best. His finishing move was like he just turned his knee pad backwards and jumped and dropped a knee on
There
their
was
chest.
some weird finishes.
It was not, yeah.
You know
Again,
what I
some
mean?
finishes like Virgil's finisher was a Russian leg sweep at the time. So the finisher, yeah, definitely could have used work. But he's in the ring, and to start the match off, he does lock up. But you would think a character like that wouldn't. But he's not just locking up. He's like spits in his hand and then locks up. And then throughout the match, he's like talking, and it's not. It doesn't look like he's putting it on. It looks like this guy is legit kind of
Right.
schizophrenic. He had an awesome look. He had a good body and everything. I really do think that that's a guy I would have loved to have seen more of. He's on your. I think he's obviously. By the way, I'm going
pretty
crazy.
sure we know where he's
I'm
going.
gonna have to find someone else. But I was like, there's no way he's picking any of my guys. But do you want to add anything about Demento?
So I think what you said really just nailed it. He had that look of fear. You didn't know exactly what he was all about. I wish we were able to dive into that. I wish he was able to have more television time, more time to work guys that he could show his character. Because
He
I
only
really
did
think
squash matches on like Superstars. I
Yeah.
think the thing he's most famous for is doing the job match to The Undertaker on the first Raw.
I wonder if they thought he might have been too similar to Papa Shango.
Papa
Great.
Shango was around at that time. Too,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like, I know he wasn't doing the voodoo stuff, but what if the character was supposed to go kind of down that road?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know.
I think I can't remember exactly. I think he said he was like from the outer reaches of your mind or something.
Yeah.
Really cool. I love when guys have
From like pots
gimmick.
unknown.
Yeah, parts are known as the
Yeah.
obvious, but like
Yep.
you know,
Death
it's cool when
Valley.
people have
Well, that's a place.
gimmick places where they're from. You know.
Right.
So yeah, Damien
So-
Demento is a solid pick. My next pick, I'm gonna go to TNA. Well,
Ooh.
TNA, but also WWECW. Monty Brown or Marcus Covan.
Oh, okay.
I think in TNA he was a star on the rise, and then eventually went over to WWECW and became part of that new breed. And then, you know, unfortunately, I think it was his sister got into a car accident and passed away, and he just left the business to take care of her kids. I mean, obviously an admirable
Right.
reason, but in that he was only in WWF for a couple months, I think, and he just, you wish you could have seen more of him.
I think he was to me kind of like I don't want to say he wasn't good, because he was. But
He was still new.
He was getting there.
Yeah.
He was kind of like a Steve Mongo McMichael to me,
But
just
he
a
was a football
step
player too.
above.
Yeah.
In ring ability.
He was kind of like
and I
Big
think
E
he
frame.
would. Yeah, I think he would have shined.
Yeah.
To me, you know, you look at Ryback, what Ryback was, it kind of gives me the vibe of what he would have been, something similar maybe. His wrestling abilities and what he does and what he brings to it. That is a pretty interesting pick.
I think like what you were saying though is kind of to my point of, I do think he needed more work. I wanted to see more. You know,
Yep.
I think that in time he would have got better. The pounce. I mean that pounce.
that was awesome.
That pounce. Period. I mean that was awesome. Like everyone does a spear. Some
Yeah, it
guys
is
have
so
tried
played
the
out now.
pounce. No one could do the pounce like him.
No.
You know. So yeah, Monty Brown, if you want to call him Monty Brown.
I'm going to go with my next pick. And I am, so it's kind of contradicting because I am glad we didn't see more of him and get so deep with him, because then who built his character around him may have came as a copycat, and he nailed it and became one of the greatest characters of all times. But Waylon Mercy.
He's definitely for me he was going to be an honorable mention. I think he only had about 10 or 11 matches.
Yeah.
But definitely, I know where you're getting at with the character.
Right.
So I'll let you talk about that. But definitely, like, his vignettes were awesome. I know he was built off of Robert De Niro's character in,
Yep.
what is it, the movie there, Cape Fear. Definitely an awesome character, how he came out, shook the, like, I reference my son so much on these shows because he really, for me, is a barometer with wrestling.
Yeah.
He's only 8, but he's so smart for an 8-year-old. And when a character stands out to him, to me, I know that character has some, if I want to say validity to it. And he knows who Waylon Mercy is, not just because of what you're going to go ahead and talk about, but the Waylon Mercy character stuck out. And I think the thing that just stunk for the Waylon Mercy character is Dan Spivey's knees were so bad at the time that he really couldn't go anymore. And but the character was awesome. But I'll let you get into...
I think the character was fantastic. I think if they were to play it out, so everybody knows, or if you don't know, Bray Wyatt's character was based off of Waylon Mercy. That was the inspiration. That's where he got a lot of his ideas.
And also, Mercy the Buzzard now is
named after him. So if Waylon Mercy was so shown back in the day, then people would have said Bray was a copycat, where Bray is probably definitely one of the tops, if not the top guy to ever play a character and evolve his character. That's a huge argument with a very small list of people you could put with Bray Wyatt with characters. With Waylon Mercy, he was able to tell, and you didn't know exactly what was coming out. That tattoo on his head, it just drew your attention immediately to him. And I think if they dove into him, I think it would have been entertaining. I think it would have been shocking. I think people would have got scared. I think back then, you probably would have had 2 outcomes. One would be, is this guy like a serial killer? Mm-hmm. And I think it was a road they didn't maybe want to go down at that time because, remember, they were getting looked at for steroids, and they were being looked at a lot at that time. And 2, I know I just brought it up, but could kind of be similar to Papa Shango if they really played out the character in the vision of how Bray was playing it out at times.
He had a great theme song, too.
He did. Yep.
Yeah, Waylon Mercy is a solid pick. I like these picks so far. Now, I have 2 more picks. I did think of one to replace Damien Demento. And I've talked about this in the past, and this is the guy as you're talking, I'm like, okay, who could my pick be? I'm going to save the third one I had. I'm going to go with the one I just thought of.
Okay.
And this isn't necessarily just a guy I wanted to see more of, because he did stick around for a bit. I wanted to see more of him in his initial outing. Paul Burchill, not as the pirate. I liked him when he was kind of Regal's understudy.
Yep.
And then, Vince McMahon watched Pirates of the Caribbean, and then all of a sudden, Paul Burchill's a pirate. And it's just like, it killed him. But I thought he was solid in ring. I really liked the dynamic of Regal having an understudy. And it wasn't like a royalty thing. This was just a young guy from England. And I really liked, his finishing move was just, a guy would be on all fours and he'd jump off the top rope and knee him in the gut. And I was like, man, that was a cool finish. So for me, I wanted to see more of that dynamic of Regal and Paul Burchill together, but more so Paul Burchill. And I think once they made him the pirate, it's like, okay, your in-ring work stuff, you're pretty much done with that. You're just playing this character. And that was a disappointment to me. So
I agree 100% with you. I really do, because he is a very talented worker. Okay, he was able to bring it. He was entertaining. You did get invested into him. It was kind of like Imperium when you seen William Regal and Paul Burchill together.
Yeah, they had.
You know what I mean? It kind of gave, like, if you stop and think, not exactly,
right,
but still. I will say this though, he did do a good job as the pirate.
Yeah, I don't think
for what he had to do.
Right,
He took it in. He looked the role. He played it up to the best. It's a pirate character,
right,
like this. Sometimes you're dealt with characters that are doomed to fail.
And I also really liked him and Katie Burchill together. I know they were trying to hint at they always want to do the incestuous relationship.
Everybody's just
I don't
too afraid
care for that, But I think that him and Katie Burchill, if they made them just a couple, would have been fine. I didn't need them to, or just brother and sister. I don't need to see the incestual stuff. That's Vince McMahon being Vince McMahon with his mind. But yeah, Paul Burchill, I think, is a guy. It was easy for me to think of him in this short period of time.
So my next pick is Spanky.
As Spanky?
As Spanky.
So not as Brian Kendrick,
Not
just
as
as Spanky?
Yeah, and the reason why is when you had him come out and you were doing it, it was embarrassing stuff. It was stupid stuff. That kind of stuff to me was like, that's tacky. That's not wrestling. Shouldn't be. But what it was showing was somebody just really wanted to be in this business. You know what I mean? Like Santino. Thank you. I totally butchered his name this time. He was a fan in the crowd, got picked, came in, won the belt. Spanky, on the other hand, was out trying to be something. And I think if we got to see more of that revolution on that and what it meant, I think the fans would appreciate it a little more.
Yeah.
And because it took him a while when he got into Brian Kendrick to get over. It really wasn't until he teamed with Paul Logan.
Paul London, yeah.
Yep. See, I'm so off on because I messed up on Santino.
I can see your point, though.
You know what I mean? So I would have liked to see more of the Spanky gimmick.
I don't think I was really watching at the time, but I do know he was doing the Spanky thing. And I think he got to be more of a character, have more personality than when him and London were together. It was just the two guys. They went out and had their matches.
And they were a great team too.
No, they were.
They really were.
But they really didn't have any character.
No.
Or any. You know what I mean? So I can see your point to that. Not someone I would have picked for that, but I can see your point to it.
And just off topic, the museum actually has 2 pairs of pants of Brian Kendrick and Spanky SpongeBob's shirt that he wore. So you guys check that out on the Items in the Museum page. So fourth pick, what are you going with?
With the guy you picked, it's interesting because I've always, look-wise, compared them. Brian Pillman, and now let me set it why.
Okay.
Pillman had a long career, but it was mostly WCW. I wanted to see more of Pillman in WWF because he was only there for about a year and a half until he passed away. But this is included in. Without his ankle injury, I mean, that ankle injury, it killed him. As far as in ring, he couldn't do nearly what he would be able to. So I would have definitely loved to have seen Pillman uninjured and having a longer time there because he came in. I like to say that he started the Attitude Era. A lot of people credit Stone Cold. I really like to put it on Pillman, and Stone Cold took that ball and ran with it. I think that. I mean, think of the matches you could have had, him and Shawn. They did it once on Raw, but Pillman had the ankle injury. It really was nothing. He did, so many things that they could have done with Pillman in the future. They couldn't even really run the Austin Pillman angle because he couldn't do in-ring.
Yep.
So I think, for me, Pillman, again, with the caveat or with the handicap, whatever term is the right term, I don't know, of not having the ankle injury and his WWF stint. So that's my fourth pick.
That's
it's kind of a cheat, pitch. But not,
Right. It's interesting because, unfortunately he passed away, so it kind of stopped that run. But I get what you're saying, you know what I mean? Because I even agree with what you're saying, like he could have been the start of the Attitude Era between him and Austin. Because Pillman really had that aggression, that attitude, that tone.
One of the best sayings was, "What's Austin 316 gonna do when it meets Pillman 9mm Glock?"
Right, and so it was definitely, I get what you're saying with that. So my fourth pick, I'm gonna go a little bit outside of just one, and kind of as a group. And
don't say Truth Commission.
Okay, so I guess the other group. No, my group I'm gonna say is Right to Censor.
Okay,
and I think. They didn't give them the opportunity to really go out as much as they could have. Stevie Richards did a fantastic job.
Yeah, he did.
Godfather, as good father, did a good enough job to play the 2 different characters.
Val Venus got to really show more in-ring ability.
Ivory was awesome. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
Ivory was made for that role.
They did what they could do. I think that could have been a group that really could have stuck around for a long period of time.
I think they could have
to
made it a
be
little
their
bigger.
safety net.
WWF tends to only make groups that have about 4 people.
Yeah.
I think that they could have made it about 7 people.
Think about
You got to have a jobber of the group. You
now.
know?
Look, this I guarantee will bring conversation. Be like, what is he talking about? Think about this. You had NWO that monopolized WCW. What about a right to censor that was monopolizing WWE?
I mean,
Not in the sense of having 40 people,
right.
but having a group, like you were saying, 7, 8 people, and always cutting out things that was liked.
You know who I think would be? So I can't remember time frame wise. Was this after they? Yeah, it was after they bought WCW, right? No, it was before.
I think it was right.
Right before.
I think it was right before.
You know who would have been good for that group?
Yeah,
I
because
think?
all the groups kind of like diminished at that
Yeah,
time.
I think Lance Storm would have been a good fit for that group. He's so serious, and
Yeah.
you know, great in-ring worker. I think he would have fit perfect in that group. But what you're saying about Right to Censor, I mean, that gimmick worked for the time. Definitely had a lot of steam behind it. Vince McMahon, they obviously had invested interest in knocking the parent-teacher council. So, as we talked about in the past, I said in No Mercy, Stevie Richards was like the main villain of the storyline in the game. And I think he did great with that. I think they all did good with that. Goodfellas
Yeah.
was the only one, maybe a little bit off, but
Yeah, but you know what? Even with him, I think how he played it was the right way because remember, he went from Godfather to being all loose, all
Yeah.
eccentric, all this extra stuff to being that serious role. You got to think about if somebody says to you, "Hey, I understand you've been working the system your whole life. We're giving you a job now.
Yeah.
We're going to give you the opportunity to better yourself, to do for you. We're hiring you right now. We're going to pay you X amount of dollars." Okay, you take this opportunity, you're bettering your life. You're going to be like, "Oh my God, what am I doing?" You're going to be shocked. You're not going to be known, you're going to be nervous. That's, I think, the role he was playing. I think he played it good. I don't think he gets enough credit for that character. And I wouldn't mind actually seeing an action figure made of the Good Father.
so let's nail
We
a
need
final
to
four.
do
and
our
then maybe
final four.
If we have time, we can throw in some. If you have any honorable mentions,
And Nails was a good mention.
Yeah.
It really was because he was somebody that I was tossing around in my mind.
there's a lot of guys at that time, like I guess honorable mention, like Max Moon. Although
I was thinking
with Max
him.
Moon, because Conan would have been the original. I would have liked to have probably seen more of Conan as Max Moon, because he only did like the 1 or 2
Yep.
things that weren't even. I don't even think they were taped. And then it was Paul Diamond, but
But
I would have
his-
liked to have seen maybe what Conan would have done in that role. It
I
would have
liked to
definitely
see
been better.
what he did. I think the ability of the flipping and all that kind of stuff to fit that character would have been better, yes. I think the putting that character in play
No.
and bringing the character to life, I don't think Conan would have did it right.
The Beverly Brothers were another team. I know they were on there for a while,
They were,
but I would have liked to have seen them go a little long. They never got a run with the title.
they were always at that
Yeah.
that just about level where I see what you're saying with that one. Barry Boy, yep, definitely.
I think the first 2 picks, though, Blitzkrieg
I was definitely gonna,
and
yeah.
Damien Demento and Waylon Mercy. I think for me, those are three definites for me.
All right, I'm good with those.
The last one is just a 4th pick, and
So we have Monty Brown,
yeah,
Paul Burchill, Brian Pillman. Those are your remaining.
Yeah.
And then my remainings are Right to Censor and Spanky.
I like. For me, my pick would be Pillman in the WWF because we got to see him there, but we really didn't. Because even though he was there, he had the ankle that was garbage. So we didn't even get to really see him at like 50%. And so not only did we not see him for a long period of time, but we only got to see like half of his ability.
Yeah, I was kind of pulled between him and Paul Burchill.
I would say more Pillman. If you were asking me,
Yeah.
I would say more Pillman than Burchill because a lot of people, if they didn't watch like Velocity or whatever or WWECW show, if they didn't watch those, they would have never even known who Burchill is. But Pillman's a pretty big name.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with Pillman because I
right.
think even though his injury and his death stopped his progression, obviously because of that, in WWE, right? He was just not a green guy coming into the business. He was just not somebody that didn't have the it. He had the it. He was just
That's why for me it was a kind of a different
and
pick.
I think, that's I'm cool with that.
Didn't you say Reggie White was one of your guys? You wanted to see more of Reggie White, the football player? No, I think another guy who I think could be a guy or someone I would want to see more of was now it just slipped my mind who I was going to say.
He was shown really well in WCW, but Alex Wright, I wish they would have did more with him. Granted, he was such a small, he was tall but small built.
I don't think I needed to see more of him. I think I needed to see
they could have did more with him.
I think with him it was a case of being booked better. I think his problem was he was a cruiserweight, but he was really tall.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to be one of the big stars that they were building over there. This isn't, Vader in WWF is one that, it's not that I want to see more of him. I wanted to see that killer Vader, and he really never was,
No, but you know what? People bring up Vader a lot, and I respect the guy, great guy. Spend time on the road with him and everything. And I think what he did in WWE or F, whatever you want to call it, was just right for him. I think it was getting to that point, not late in his career, but kind of later in his career. You know what I mean? Yeah. His body was beat up from all the years on the road. And I think they showcased him good. I think if they did anything more with him, I think he would have become an unrealistic character where he was built up already.
Didn't you mention to me that you wanted to see Big T in WCW more, Ahmed Johnson? Now it's kind of like getting into the who was horrible. There were some guys like, I think that I would have liked to have. It's tough because the lightweight division in WWF was not really great. So, like, Dean Malenko came over and...
He was another one I was thinking because Malenko, even the Radicals, right?
Here's one.
That would have been a great group to really push, and they really didn't do anything.
As I mentioned, cruiserweights. Ultimo Dragon in WWF. I would like to have seen him more, but then again, there really wasn't the people for him to work with to his capability.
To his level, no. Why don't you say our four corners that we picked this week?
So Blitzkrieg from his short little stint in WCW, which I think when you think of this subject, Blitzkrieg is the name that comes to my mind first.
So we got him.
Damien Demento.
We got him.
Which I'm surprised how much we both had that one.
Brian Pillman.
Brian Pillman. I was trying to think who was third.
Waylon Mercy.
I those think all solid picks.
Those are four. Tell us what you think. Did we make the right picks? Would you have picked who we picked, or would you pick somebody else? Let us know right in, and we'll read them here right on the show. Make sure you do that QR code, and check out the official WrestlingMuseum.com. That code is going to help get a National Pro Wrestling Day. It takes only about 10 seconds to do. Totally free to do. We thank you guys very much for tuning in, and you know what they say.
We'll come back next week and see what we throw in. Oh, wow, I couldn't see when I lifted them up, man.
See
what we throw in the corners.
See you next week, folks.